Hey, welcome. I'm really glad you're here today, joining me for this. Wherever you are in life, we all have those moments when we go, you know what? I'd like to change my mindset about something. And that's what we're going to focus on today, and the fact that that can happen in 12 weeks. And I'll walk you through some things today, but really, I want to speak to your needs specifically. Where are you? Where is your mindset? What are you struggling with? What's going on? Feel free to put something in the chat if you want to. I'll check that from time to time. Would love to have interaction as we move through this today. I am also going to put up here a way to get in touch with me. So if you just want to reach out and email me if you have questions or want to have a conversation, please feel free to do that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, but today is really about your story. What's going on for you? If you're here, if you're listening to this, whether it's live or later watching the recording, you may be struggling with something, and we all do. And that's okay, because that's a very normal part of life. So as I bring up some critical things I want to focus on here on my notes, the key here is we can change our mindset with intention and with design, but not if we don't understand some very basic things. So, really, what I'm here to help you with today is to understand, how do our brains work? How can we change our mindset? Because, well, there's a very specific reason. If we want to get different results, the starting place for that is to change our mindset. So I've been doing this a long time, more than 4 decades. I've been in psychology, neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and really just a lot of life experience. But this isn't about me. This is about you. I hope that I can bring my purpose in a way that will help you. And what is my purpose? It's two words. It's equip people, and a capital E and a capital Q, EQ, standing for emotional intelligence, which is the core of what I bring and what I help people with. And it's helped me so much. Let me share a little bit about that. Let me share a little of my story. I've worked with people of all ages. I've done all kinds of different consulting engagements and coaching engagements. I've done so many different things, which I love, because I'm one of those strange people that actually loves change and doing new and different things all the time. But what I found is we're all very similar in certain ways. And part of that is most of us have a desire to improve ourselves, improve our mindset, improve our results and our outcomes. But most of us don't know how to do that, because there's a lot of mystery around how does our brain work and how do habits work and what role do emotions play in all of this. What I hope to bring to you today is an understanding of some of those things, so that you can make a decision about what's helping you and what's hurting you. What is helping you to move forward and accomplish what you want to, and what's holding you back. And sometimes we all have blind spots, right? And it's hard for us to see what those blind spots are. Others will be happy to share that with us, right? That's called feedback. Sometimes that feedback is kind of tough to take, but we all need that kind of feedback. So as you and I walk through this today, I really want to try to provide a foundation that you can decide what you want to build on. And it starts with understanding that if we're going to change our mindsets, it's going to have to be intentional. There has to be a purpose behind it. And we have to have some kind of design. But first, we have to understand, how do we make that happen? Because we can't just do it through willpower. It just doesn't work. Well, let me ask this question. What would be possible in your life, in your leadership, in your sales, in your professional life, in your home life? what would be possible if you could truly transform from the inside out? And that's how transformation works. It's from the inside out. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. In 12 weeks, which we know it takes about 90 days to change habits, to change patterns, and we'll talk about the science behind that very briefly. I think it's helpful to know those things. And the reason I share that with you is this doesn't have to be a mystery. I wish somebody had told me, even my older self had told my younger self, that when I was maybe in my teens and early 20s, how all this stuff works, because I think it would have really changed the way that I approach certain things. Maybe I would have made some better decisions. We all have those moments, don't we? When we go, gosh, I wish I'd have done that differently. But the reality is, forearmed, forewarned is going to prepare you for what comes next, whatever stage you are in life. There's, with neuroplasticity and the way our brains grow, we can continue learning as long as we want to. So let's talk about, where do we go with this? And what is this thing about mindset, right? There's a phrase I like to use. Confidence is an emotion, but it comes out of a mindset. And it's taken me a long time to really understand the integration of our emotional part of our brain, our rational part of our brain, how they work together, and how we can intentionally leverage those to give us better outcomes. And that's what I want for you. I want you to understand some of this. I don't have all the answers. I know you're coming today hoping this is the guy that has all the answers. Sorry. But I know a lot of lessons that I've learned, and that's what I want to share with you specifically. Have you ever thought about how many emotion words that we use every day? Well, let me take a few for you. Trust, an emotion. Confidence, hope, fear, anxiety, stress, excitement, engaged, comfort, clarity, uncertainty. I mean, I could keep going, right? There are 34,000 different defined emotions. You don't have to know all of those. Why do I share that with you? Here's why. The emotional part of our lives has a huge impact in the rest of our life. Everything we think, how we behave, the patterns, the habits that we create are all driven by emotions. You know why? Because our brain experiences emotion first, and then we can put it into the prefrontal cortex and a more rational approach. But what happens if you get hijacked? What happens if you get triggered with your emotions and you get what we call an amygdala hijack, where your emotions just take over? Have you ever been in a situation where you've said, I just can't think straight? We've all been there, right? And it may be because of a loss or because of something that's happened that has really triggered strong emotions for us. This is where mindset is so very important, because you can actually create patterns, habits, ways of navigating those emotions so that you can make better decisions, you can think more clearly, you can be more intentional and get better outcomes. That's what we're talking about when we say mindset. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the science of that, please don't turn off and go somewhere else. I know that scrolling is a lot of fun, and we kind of get hooked in, that short attention span, what I call partial continuous attention. That's actually a syndrome that we deal with a lot of people, where they can't really focus on any one thing to a deep degree or for a lengthy period of time. But guess what? That is also about mindset. How do we train our brains to focus better. So what can we do with this? Emotions are generated by our mindset. Everything, our mindset literally is the foundation that everything is built on and the filter that everything passes through. And so that's why it's important. And a lot of people, you're going to hear this all the time. Success mindset. You need to do this to have a success mindset. You need to do that to have a success mindset. There's a lot of noise out there about what a success mindset is. My goal for you is to remove the confusion and replace it with clarity. And that comes from just understanding how our mindsets are created. And, I just wrote something to somebody in an email just a few minutes ago that said to them, just like organizations get the culture that they tolerate, we as individuals get the mindset that we tolerate. That's not necessarily a good thing, because our busyness, the times we feel overwhelmed and all of that, we let a lot of things slide, and that goes for our mindset as well. So let's talk a little bit more about, everybody wants success, right? I mean, you want success, I want success, we all want success. But success is an outcome that can only happen when we operate at our best. And that's a really important part of this conversation. And this is what I'd like you to kind of start to sense in why I think I'm so passionate about this, because success is an outcome we all want, but we don't all get there. But we all could get there if we can build the right mindset and allow that to be the driver and the filter that everything comes through. So let's get into a little bit about how do we build a good mindset. And specifically for you, I don't know where you are right now in life, but I want you to kind of walk with me through this journey of how do we develop and be more intentional about the mindset that we want to have. And what is this whole 12 weeks thing? Is that real? And I'll say to you, yes. I mean, studies prove it, that 12 weeks, it's possible to change your mindset in a way that's going to make a huge difference. So in our business, our brand is EQFIT, right? Emotional intelligence, and fit stands for a lot of things, but just think fitness, just emotionally fit, mentally fit, which of course goes with physical fitness and other things in our lives. But if you want to operate at your best level, you've got to have the right mindset, which helps you stay accountable and aligned with what you want to accomplish. And we can literally, in 12 weeks, we work with people all the time. And in 12 weeks, we can see a significant shift in a more successful, a more winning mindset. And that's because we have practical skills and approaches that make sense. That's what I'm sharing with you today. I'm just going to give you that stuff today because I want you to be able to see what's possible for yourself. Now, lasting change comes from the inside out, and we call it transformation, not change. So this growth mindset that we're looking at here is so very important. Now, for those of you that struggle with the word emotion and emotion at work or emotion in the organization or whatever, which is accurate, and emotion is science, it's neuroscience. You can talk mental toughness. How about that, right? If you're more comfortable with that, by the way, comfort is an emotion. So this growth mindset is so very important. And Carol Dweck is the one that originally came up with this concept of a growth mindset. I've got a very good friend and strategic partner in Dr. Chuck Coker, who has written a book called Are You Coachable? The Science of a Growth Mindset. Why do so many people focus on this? Let me help you understand specifically why I think it's important. because I deal with people all day who either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. I like working with the people that have a growth mindset. And the reality for that is they're easy to work with. They want to learn. They want to grow. They want to see what's going on. And they don't know everything, right? Have you ever been around somebody who knows everything and who has one way of doing things, and that's the right way, and there isn't any other right way? It's a little more difficult to work with those individuals, especially if they're your leader, which is a whole different conversation. So as I kind of walk you through this growth mindset, it is one of the key pieces of the foundation of building the mindset, the winning mindset, the success mindset that you want. So let's go ahead and start to look at some of these other things. Now, when I get into doing this with a group of people, into what we call creating the EQFIT mindset or the EQFIT mastermind or whatever you want to call it, different people call it different things. It's a 12-week program that specifically focuses on understanding first and measuring through good, validated assessments, but then moving into some very practical ways to develop the mindset you want. And guess what? Your mindset and the way that you want to create that may be different from mine. There is no one right way to do this. Have you ever been around somebody who's trying to be something different than they really are? And you just know it. It's inauthentic, it's not genuine, and it's just awkward, right? I want you to be who you're made and created to be. And that's the beauty of all of us. We are one of one. There is nobody else exactly like us. Even if you're a twin, there may be many, many things that are similar, but you are a unique individual. And I want to bring that out of people because it's that uniqueness in you that enriches everybody. If we have the right mindset, if we can operate at our highest level consistently. So let's talk about how that happens. One of the key things that I like to focus on is the way that our brains work, because there's so much information out there, of course, with the internet and AI today and all that. You can find all of this out on your own, right? But I'm going to take the information and put it, for you, I'm going to put it into practical approaches. What we have this thing about ourselves, what we believe to be true about ourselves and our place in the world, okay? It's kind of the center of who we are. And from that, we create these rules that we live by. Whether we think about them that way or not, that it's what happens, right? What we believe about ourselves and our place in the world actually generates the rules that we live by. And that then generates emotions for us. And from the emotions come our self-talk. So let me explain that maybe in an example. If you're struggling with something, if you're having trouble in a certain area, or there's something you really want to avoid and you don't like conflict, a lot of people avoid conflict. Is conflict a bad thing? Not really. If you avoid conflict, it's not going to get any better. It probably isn't going to go away. So the problem then is our self-talk becomes non-productive. It actually holds us back, and it cycles around negative emotions and emotions that keep us stuck. So if we understand that self-talk is the indicator of our mindset and where our mindset is in any given situation, I hope that helps you start to see, wait a minute, I don't have to understand all this neuroscience, but what I do need to understand is, how is my self-talk impacting me today? Is it in a good place? Is it helping me? Is it giving me energy? Is it providing some motivation and drive for me? Or is it holding me back? And when I work with salespeople, this is a big deal because they get no and they get rejected and they get objections a lot. So we have to help them develop this mindset that helps them move forward even in the face of challenge. And honestly, don't we all have challenges every day? I know I do. I'm sure you do. So as we look at this way that our brain works, guess what? Who controls what you believe about yourself? Who controls your beliefs? You do. Who controls the rules you live by? You do. So if you want to change something, you have the power to do that. And sometimes I think people miss that, or maybe they don't understand the sequence that actually has such a profound impact on your life, on my life. If we understand how this works, we can start to make changes, and we can make those changes in a transformational way. So we're not changing and then, oh, we change back. We're going from the caterpillar to the butterfly, and we can spread our wings and fly. And I want that for you. I want you to be able to navigate and manage these things in a way that allows you to continually improve your mindset. So what I also want to do is share with you how we go about doing this, right? Some of this is just great information, but if you don't show me how to do it, well, that's what I want to do for you today. I want to show you how we do this. We rewire our thinking. And I know that the print here may be kind of small, but we rewire our thinking. And through that process, we create more clarity, more agility, and more resilience. Why is that important? Well, the neuroscience of our thought patterns, our emotional habits, the way we react to things, it's all science. So if it's science, we know that there are sequencing, there are things that we can do to change that sequencing. And the very cool thing about this is that we can change it. We can transform into something that's better for you, right? Better for me. We can identify our limiting beliefs. Now, this is the how to do it. If we want to rewire our thinking, we start with identifying our limiting beliefs. We all have them. And one of the things I want to express to you today, don't self-limit. Other people will be happy to limit you. And I'm sure you probably get that every day with people, well, you can't do that, or you're no good at that, or whatever that happens to be. Don't self-limit, okay? Identify limiting beliefs, use reframing exercises, build mental agility. What is a reframing exercise? It's pretty simple. Instead of saying something like, I'm no good at that, or I can't do that, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. Add one word at the end of those two sentences. I can't do that yet. I'm not good at that yet. You're starting to reframe, and you're starting to change your mindset. You're starting to say, okay, I may not be good at that yet, but it's worth getting better at. Well, all of a sudden, the shift, the reframing is allowing you to see value in something instead of just avoiding it and giving yourself permission to fail. Most of our best lessons are learned through failure and mistakes. And I know those are not comfortable things for any of us, but that's the truth. And so this is one way we can start to reshape, rewire our thinking to get a winning mindset, a more successful mindset. And here's that exercise that I talked about. Everything today is about creating a winning or a success mindset, but it's got to be right for you. It can't just be somebody saying, this is the way you should do it, and because this is the way I did it and I'm really successful. Well, good for you. You probably have said the same thing when people share it that way. But that's, we're different. right? We're unique individuals. We all have our own way of doing things. This is one exercise that I know works that you can put in place to start to reshape and reform that mindset of yours into what you want it to be. So now let's go to the next one. Navigate emotional environments with confidence. What does that mean, Steve? Okay. Basically, what we're talking about is emotional intelligence isn't optional anymore. It's an advantage. It's a strategic advantage. It's a competitive advantage. Why does this matter? Emotions are contagious and they influence our behavior, our decision making, they influence the culture. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the mood of the room? I know I have. You know what that is? We have these things in our brain called mirror neurons, like you're looking in a mirror. Mirror neurons, they are our emotional radar. We pick up emotions from other people. The people that are close to you in your life, you know when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're struggling, when they're frustrated. And a lot of times it may not be the things that they say or the way they behave. It may just be micro expressions, or it may be things that they express in ways that are more physical than verbal, or they may be very verbal about whatever they're experiencing. Being able to navigate those emotional environments is so critical. At work, have you recently been in a situation at work that was really uncomfortable or really awkward? And you know how that makes you feel, right? Well, if you have a mindset that a part of the component of that mindset is being able to easily navigate those emotionally charged environments, you're going to operate at a much higher level, a much better level, and get much better outcomes. Because what happens, remember, everything we process comes through the emotional center of our brain first, and then goes to our prefrontal cortex, or the rational, logical, higher thinking center of our brain for processing. And if we're triggered in a way that we can't think clearly or make better decisions, that impacts us, it impacts everybody around us. So that's why this navigating emotional environments with confidence is so important. All of the skills I'm talking about to do that, recognizing your emotional cues in yourself, in other people, using emotional data without getting hijacked. That's that amygdala hijack I talked about. That's so important because it really helps you better navigate all of that stuff you're going through. Everybody, the minute they wake up in the morning, there's a thing that happens. You have 100% of your energy to spend the minute you wake up in the morning, right? But then we start to layer stuff on ourselves like, oh, I forgot I got to do that thing today, or I've got that thing at work that I'm not happy about, or there's this thing with my family, or you start to layer on these things that start to drain your energy. So we call that the energy exchange. And energy goes internal first to deal with what you're dealing with internally. What's left over can go to your external efforts. This is why mindset is so important, because you want the majority of your energy to be available for the things that you want to accomplish, the things that you want to do on a daily basis. This is why the mindset helps us to put good boundaries and find good balance around the emotional environments we're dealing with every day that come out of our relationships, that come out of our family, that come out of everything that we do. I know that this has helped me a lot to be able to navigate the emotional environments. You know, people look at me and go, man, you're really good in a crisis. Well, I didn't get that way overnight, right? I created a mindset that allowed me to access my higher cognitive functions and not get hung up in emotional hijacking. And you know, if you have, I'm going to be very careful here, because we all have them in our lives. If you have emotional vampires in your life, there's a certain way to deal with that. And I don't have time today to go through that. Feel free to email me. I'm going to put up my email again. If anybody just wants to reach out to me and have a conversation, there you go. That's another part of mindset. Are you setting good boundaries? Because what happens if you're in an airplane and the oxygen mask drops down? You put it on yourself first, because then you can help other people. It's the same thing in life. You take care of yourself so that you can operate at your best for others, family, friends, people at work, your team, whatever it happens to be. You may own a business. You may be a leader in a business. You definitely need to take care of yourself so you can operate at your highest level. And it starts with the foundation of getting the right mindset. So let's go on and look at what can we do about that. We have to first recognize our emotional triggers. Those are also, they link to patterns, which link to habits. So the way something happens, something we experience creates a pattern. It's happened to us before. We fall into this pattern that has probably become a habit because we've reinforced it. And all of that works through neural pathways in our brain that get strengthened every time we reinforce our pattern. The question is, can we recognize our emotional triggers and the patterns that follow early enough so that if we want to exit out of that pattern, we can? What I call getting an exit ramp. That's really important. Somebody asked me the other day, okay, Steve, I love that idea, but how, I need you to explain that better. I said, okay, have you ever been in a conversation with somebody? It may be a spouse, it may be a significant other, it could be a child or whatever. Have you ever been in that conversation where all of a sudden you realize this is the same conversation we always have about this thing? That's a pattern. And you trigger them, they trigger you, you go down this pattern, and it probably isn't going to have a different outcome that every other time you've done it in the past. Well, that approach, that thought process is all across the way we do things in our lives. Patterns and habits are a very big deal in our lives. But are they the right patterns? Are they the right habits? That's important. And we'll talk a little bit more about habits here in a minute. But for you specifically, if you can just start to be more intentional about recognizing your emotional triggers without getting hijacked, what does that mean? The emotion itself, the initial emotion, you can't control. If something happens, you're going to have the initial emotion, but the intensity of it diminishes in about 6 seconds. But what happens if you relive that event over and over and over? Then you just re-trigger the same emotion over and over and over, and it gets stronger and stronger every time you re-trigger it. Now, it still goes away in a short period of time, but you're choosing to live in an emotional environment that probably is not helping you. And that's something I want people to understand, because there's all this misunderstanding about how our emotions work and how habits work and how patterns work. And what I'm trying to do is just give a little bit of insight to you about what can we do differently? What can we put in place that would help us have a better mindset, a healthier mindset, a more winning and successful mindset? That's one thing that will definitely make a difference, because the longer you stay in those non-productive cycles of emotions in your mind, the more energy that you drain and the less energy and focus and time and effort that are available for other things. And so that's why creating the right mindset is so very important. So what's the next thing? Here's another thing we like to focus on when we're working with people around creating the right mindset and more confidence, more success, more satisfaction, just a better operating system. And that's what I call it. I call it a better internal operating system. Apply proven practical tools that actually move the needle. So why does it matter? Well, all day long, you can go on the internet, you can listen to people on YouTube. Abstract theories don't create change and transformation. Behavioral tools do. And what I'm talking with you specifically about today is a behavioral approach to creating the mindset that you want. Practical beats theoretical when under pressure every single time. Because you may know something, but until you practiced it and put it into play, put it into your approach, then it isn't there for you. And so how do we do that? We have an assessment we use called the habit story. Now, not here to sell you an assessment today, but I'd be happy to do one for you if you want it. What it does is this shows us that emotions create the trigger or the cue. And then our brain goes into, okay, if I'm triggered in a certain way, if I have this cue, this emotion, then I can predict what may happen. And from that, I take action. And then the results of that, I make a decision. Do I reinforce that, or do I try to get it out of my brain, out of my system, that kind of approach? So habits are critical. And let me explain why. When you're creating the right mindset, why are habits so important? Well, bottom line, 43% of our decisions and actions every day are done habitually. What does that mean? We don't put a lot of thought or consideration. We just do them the same way. Whatever we've created, whatever habit that has been created and reinforced over time, that's what we do. 43%. I share that because this is why it's so important. We have productive habits, which are good, but we also have counterproductive habits like blame shifting or sabotage or dismissing or denying. And all of those counterproductive habits can be a real limitation on our ability to live the life we want to live. And I don't want that for you. I want you to be able to live the life you want to live. That's why this is so important to me. That's why my purpose, I can sum up in 2 words: equip people. Equip people to prosper, because that's the outcome. But the way I get there is I help equip people. And part of what I'm doing today is hopefully equipping you. Now, reduce those counterproductive habits, increase those productive habits, because you can't really increase your productive habits until you reduce the ones that are getting in the way. And that's a big part of our mindset. The more that we can separate away from the counterproductives and have stronger productive habits, the better our approach to things and the better our mindset is going to be. So what else can we do? Well, I believe that everybody is a leader, at least in the fact that they have to lead themselves. So when we talk about the right mindset, I want you to think of yourself. I don't care where you are in life. I want you to think of yourself as a leader, because you're leading yourself first. And by influence, by example, you're leading other people. But are you doing it with intention and with impact? You can't lead others well until you can lead yourself well. And why does all that matter? Leadership is about consistent influence. It's not position. It's not authority. Managing, that may be authority based, but that is not leadership. Leadership is influence. It's encouragement. It's inspiration. It's coaching. It's developing. It's doing all of those people focused skills that are so important to get people to engage at a higher level. And we've got an engagement problem in our world, in the workplace, and in the United States. 31%, woohoo, we're 3 out of 10 people in the workplace are engaged, which is the emotional commitment they have to the organization, to the team, and to the effort. Okay, we need to change that, right? But it starts with you. And self-leadership creates a model worth following. And that's what we want. We want to be a leader worth following. How do we do that? We clarify our leadership intent. This word clarify or clarity is so very important. So many of the people I've worked with, hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, so many of them struggle with clarity and communicating clearly to other people. And that becomes the root of so many problems, so many mistakes. But we can be more intentional about that. Practice internal alignment with external behavior. If you say something as a leader, but do something different, what message does that send? I don't want that for you. I want you to be consistent. Why? Because trust just blossoms when you're consistent. No matter what kind of leader you are, even if you're an individual contributor, if you're a stay-at-home parent, it doesn't matter where you are in life. Consistency between what you think, what you say, and what you do is so critical to trust building. It's so critical to connecting well with other people and building those good relationships. So how do we do that? We use 2 of the very important competencies of emotional intelligence. Am I aware of how I'm showing up for myself and for other people? That's self-awareness. And how am I regulating myself, my behavior, my thoughts, my emotions, so that I can operate at my best self? That is a mindset. That's another pillar of creating that winning mindset that we want to see. And those are direct components of emotional intelligence. And so that's a critical part of creating that winning mindset. Now, I know I'm sharing a lot of information with you today. And frankly, I'm giving away to you today a lot of the things that we coach people on and train people in. But we don't just train people. That's what I want to get across. We provide a transformational experience that is unique and customized for the individual. And that's so important because the cookie cutter thing just doesn't work. And you'll see in me, I get frustrated with all of this noise out there that I believe is leading people astray. I believe is leading them in a direction that isn't all that helpful. Now, there's good stuff out there. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not the source of all wisdom. But the bottom line is there's a lot of stuff out there that is not really going to help you. That's why I want to make sure that what I share is proven, it's validated, it makes sense, it's practical, it's easy to understand. And that's why I share my email with people is so, hey, if you have questions about this stuff, I want you to reach out to me. I want to have a conversation with you because my heart is to help you get where you want to go in life and to do it in a way that you'll enjoy the journey along the way. So let me talk a little bit now about how do we bring this together? Because as we walk through different ways of creating a winning mindset, we need to think about aligning our internal growth and the way we're shaping our mindset with our external results, because our external results are the measure of progress that we're going to have to help us really understand, are we on the right trajectory? Why does all of this matter? If transformation is visible, people will be able to see it. You should be able to see the transformation that we're talking about here. You should be able to feel it inside. And when inner growth shows up in how you think, how you feel, and how you act, several things happen. And this is why it's important. If you're misaligned, you could be headed toward burnout, which is not good at all. That's a very serious condition. I think people treat burnout way too lightly. I've seen burnout destroy people and destroy their families. And I feel very strongly about that. If you feel you're in burnout, I would love to have a conversation with you, because I don't want anybody to be in that place. How do we do this, though? How do we align our internal growth with our external results? Set growth goals for yourself and then map that out. What are the desired outcomes you want to achieve? Make it realistic. Use SMART goal approach. Make it realistic, but have those growth goals. Create personal growth dashboards, ways you can, your emotions, your habits, your impact, identify those things that you want to achieve, and then create a way to make sure that you can see how you're moving along that. And please, whatever you do, and I'm horrible about this, I just celebrate the big wins, right? I need to remember to celebrate the small wins. And I hope you will too, because it's those small wins that are so critical. And then practice being internally congruent with your external impact, your external, how you're effective, how you're showing up for other people. And the way to do this when we're creating this winning mindset is go back to that growth mindset we talked about. I want you to have a growth mindset. If that's the only thing you get out of this today, you've gotten a lot further down the road. Open your brain up, open your mind up, be a learner, be purpose driven, understand what your purpose is, and be goal aligned. And those goals can be personal goals just as much as corporate goals. So, and as a matter of fact, you should have both, and they should align well. They should match up fairly well. So as I kind of bring this together, I want to share with you back to this 12 weeks to transformation. This is the part where I get a little uncomfortable because I don't want it to come across as a sales pitch. I hope you've heard my heart. My heart is to help you be as successful and as satisfied in life as you want to be. And a lot of that comes from the engine that is your mindset. So we have a very, very limited number of openings for an August 1st start to our leadership mastermind and our sales mastermind. Now, leadership can cover a broad area. You could be an emerging leader, you could be a seasoned leader, you could be an executive, but creating those masterminds, what I found is that in today's world, busy people need a schedule-friendly approach to growth and to new skill development. And that's what we do in 12 weeks. A couple of hours a week, plus assessments, plus coaching. If you're interested in that, there's how you get in touch with us. And I've shared my email with you as well, and I'll share that again. If you just want to have a conversation about this, feel free to email me. But notice there's our general email there, info@eqfit.org. There's our website there. If it's not for you, that's great. I totally understand that. But if you're that person who wants to engage in a transformational process where it starts with creating the right mindset, but it goes far beyond that into practical skill development and things that we've seen work over the 40 plus years that I've been doing this, whether you're in leadership or sales, I would love to have a conversation with you about that. And that's all it is. There's no obligation of any kind. If it's not right for you, that's fine, because I want to engage with the people that are ready. If that's you, that's great. I look forward to having that conversation. And then there are a couple of other resources I'll share with you that that we have recently put out. I published 2 books recently. One is Unlocking Sales Success with Emotional Intelligence. And the other, if you know anything about me, if you see it in my profile or my website, you'll see that I am a man of faith. And so I've just literally this week, I have published my next book, which is called Fruitful and Free, Living the Abundant Life Through Spirit-Led Emotional Intelligence. For those of you, and maybe that's you, who are people of faith, and that's a big part of who you are and how you want to bring that into your life and into the workplace, there's a couple of resources for you. Thank you for being here today. I hope you have taken something out of this that will be helpful and something that you can move forward with. And again, I want to encourage anybody who just wants to have a conversation with me. That's why I continue to put my email there. Why does it say GSC Fit instead of EQFIT? The reason is we originally started as Goodner Strategic Consulting, and we just decided to shorten that because that was really long, and people griped at me about, well, you need a shorter email address, Steve. And I said, okay, fine. Hey, I'm just a real person walking a real journey, just like you. If I can help you on that journey, I would love to do that. Again, thanks for being here today.